The air in Willow Creek, Oregon, was crisp on that October morning in 2024 when we pulled up to our new cabin by Mirror Lake. I'm Daniel Carter, a high school history teacher, and my wife, Emily, a retired Air Force officer, was stepping out of our moving truck, her slight limp barely noticeable unless you were looking for it. She'd earned that limp and a chest full of medal serving in places most people only read about in headlines. But to Sarah Mitchell, the HOA president of our new neighborhood, that limp was blood in the water. Before we'd even unpacked a single box, Sarah was at our gate, clipboard in hand, her smile as sharp as a switchblade. "Welcome to Willow Creek," she said, her voice dripping with fake warmth. "I'm here to ensure compliance with our community standards." That was the moment I knew we'd walked into a trap. Sarah was in her late 40s, dressed like she was auditioning for a country club board, her eyes locked on Emily's careful steps. Well, she muttered, loud enough to carry but soft enough to dodge accountability. Another one expecting special treatment. The word special hit like a slap, and I felt my jaw tighten. Emily, though, just squared her shoulders, her military poise unshaken despite the 4 years since her medical discharge. She'd faced worse than a suburban dictator with a measuring tape. "Ma'am," Emily said calmly, "could you point me to the specific HOA bylaws authorizing these fees?" She was referring to the $700 in move-in assessments Sarah had just demanded cash only, naturally. Sarah's smile flickered, a glitch in her perfect facade, but she recovered fast. "Oh, a little lawyer, are we?" she said, her laugh sharp enough to cut glass. "I've dealt with your type before, sweetheart. This is a civilian community, and we all follow the same rules, no exceptions for circumstances." That pause before circumstances was deliberate, a jab at Emily's injury, and I had to stop myself from stepping in. Emily didn't need me to fight her battles. She was already cataloging every word for the legal case she was quietly building. That first day set the tone. Sarah's inspection was a masterclass in cruelty disguised as protocol. She made Emily carry boxes far too heavy for her leg, smirking about how some people play up their injuries for sympathy. She forced her to stand in the 85-degree heat for 2 hours, dismissing requests for a break with, "If you're really hurt, you should have planned better." Emily endured it all with a quiet dignity that reminded me why her commanders trusted her with classified missions. Across the street, an older neighbor, Margaret Thompson, watched with the sharp eyes of someone who'd spent decades in courtrooms. A retired court stenographer, Margaret was already mentally drafting a case against Sarah, her silver hair glinting as she took notes. By the time Sarah left, she'd extorted $800 in fake fees and declared to the gawking neighbors that everyone follows the same standards, no matter their sob story. The crowd nodded like obedient sheep, too scared or apathetic to challenge her. That night, Margaret knocked on our door, her manila folder thick with evidence. "Emily, dear," she said, her voice carrying the weight of 35 years in legal proceedings, "Sarah's ruined 4 families in 2 years. It's time someone fought back." She handed Emily her old business card and leaned in. "I've documented enough discrimination cases to know she's breaking federal laws. And I've got proof." Emily's eyes lit up, and she pulled out a locked box I'd never seen before. Inside were commendations I didn't recognize and a classified folder that made my stomach drop. "Daniel," she whispered, "Sarah has no idea what I did in the service or how I got this limp. That's going to be her downfall." The next morning, Sarah escalated to financial warfare. At 7 a.m., she was in our driveway, armed with a stack of papers that screamed petty tyranny. "Good morning, neighbors," she chirped, her smile pure venom. "Your cabin fails 12 compliance points: paint too bright, mailbox too tall, landscaping inadequate. Total cost, $2,200, due in 48 hours. She'd clearly dug into our finances, me teacher's salary, our mortgage, Emily's medical bills, and tailored her demands to break us. But Margaret was ready. "Sarah," she called from her fence, her voice like a judge's gavel. "Care to explain the $5,000 missing from the HOA budget?" Sarah's face went white. Margaret had spent the night dissecting public financial records, uncovering a trail of emergency expenses and administrative fees that led straight to Sarah's personal accounts. Emily piled on, her tone deceptively calm. "The HOA's annual fees are $15,000. but only $10,000 is accounted for. Where's the rest, Sarah? The question hit like a missile, and Sarah's stammered response, something about future improvements, only dug her deeper. By Wednesday, Sarah went for my throat. I arrived at Willow High to find Principal Evans waiting in my classroom, his face grim. "Daniel, we've got reports about your home posing security risks to the district." Sarah had submitted a dossier of fabricated evidence, doctored photos making our cabin look like a militia compound, edited audio of threatening conversations, even neighbor statements claiming we were unstable. It was a surgical strike on my teaching career, implying I was a risk to students. Principal Evans, visibly uncomfortable, asked about substances in our home and my mental stability. I spent my lunch break warning Emily, who responded with a strategist's clarity. "She's targeting your job because it's your weak point." But she just gave us a paper trail. Our neighbor Ryan, a young IT teacher, dropped a bombshell that afternoon. "Mr. Carter," he said, showing me his laptop, "Sarah's evidence is fake. The metadata proves her photos and audio were manipulated with pro-grade software." This wasn't just a nosy neighbor. Sarah had skills suggesting training in psychological ops. Emily made calls. I only caught snippets off phrases like pattern recognition and federal protocols, hinting at her past and intelligence. By Thursday, Sarah unleashed a digital blitz. A viral video painted Emily as a deranged veteran terrorizing the elderly, complete with dramatic music and fake testimonials. Our address was doxed, with calls for community monitoring. Anonymous accounts posted our car's plates and directions to our cabin. Emily's security clearance was at risk as clients questioned her stability. "She's attacking everything I built," Emily said, her voice tight. "This isn't personal, Anna Marie, it's a threat to my clearance." Margaret, though, was one step ahead. She'd screenshot every post, saved metadata, and traced Sarah's fake accounts to a single local IP. "This is coordinated," she said, her voice cold. "Sarah's been planning this for weeks, building a network to make it look grassroots." Emily's calls to her security firm escalated the situation into federal territory, with terms like cyberstalking contractor and national security implications. The personal toll was brutal. Emily, who'd survived combat zones, was shaken by comments questioning her service and disability. "I fought for their right to say this," she said, scrolling through the hate. When Sarah posted our address with a call for vigilance, Emily made a call that chilled me. If she's targeting a cleared contractor, that's a federal issue. Friday morning, everything unraveled. Federal agents pulled up to Sarah's sprawling home, and her confident mask shattered. She tried one last gambit, filing a police report claiming Emily threatened her with military intimidation. But Officer James Reed, a Marine veteran, wasn't buying it. When he checked Emily's ID, his demeanor shifted. "Ma'am," he said, "your call sign was Raven 4? You saved my unit in Syria in 2016. Sarah, expecting an arrest, looked lost as Reed treated Emily with reverence. Margaret arrived with her evidence. 15 months of screenshots, recordings, and financial records proving Sarah's campaign against military families. Reed's federal liaison confirmed Emily's contractor status, turning Sarah's harassment into a potential felony. "Mrs. Mitchell," Reed said, "you're facing charges for cyberstalking a government contractor and embezzlement." Sarah's screams of military conspiracy only made her look unhinged. Saturday was the climax. Reed returned with federal backup, and the neighborhood watched as Sarah's empire collapsed. "Major Carter," Reed addressed Emily, his voice loud enough for all to hear. "Your service record includes classified commendations for valor. This community owes you an apology." The neighbors, who'd enabled Sarah's reign, turned on her. Margaret's evidence, fake accounts, stolen funds, targeted harassment sealed Sarah's fate. Federal charges included conspiracy against military contractors, a crime carrying years in prison. Sarah lost her home, savings, and reputation, her allies scattering like roaches. Over the next 6 months, the FBI uncovered a network targeting veterans across states, with Sarah as a key player. Emily's case sparked a nationwide probe, earning her a classified DoD commendation. I got a promotion at school, and Margaret's evidence methods became a model for military families fighting harassment. Willow Creek elected a new HOA board, and the Laura Evans Anti-Harassment Act passed Congress, protecting veterans from similar attacks. But the real shock came months later. Cleaning out evidence boxes, Emily found a letter linking Sarah to a man tied to a Marine's accidental death. "Daniel," she whispered, "Sarah wasn't alone. Someone's still out there. Heroes carry scars, not capes. Emily's earned hers protecting lives, and she's still fighting." But what if the real enemy is still watching? Have you ever faced a bully who underestimated you? What gave you the courage to fight back? And what would you do if you discovered your tormentor was part of something bigger, something still out there? Drop your stories below. I read every one. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell. The truth always wins, but only if we fight for it.